Dig with everyone, Kajima Tashiv, and welcome back to episode number 54 of the Inline G Flute podcast with me, your host, motherfucking Inline G. It's me again, and it's just me. I know you're probably all sick to the back fucking teeth of these solo episodes, so you'll be glad to know this will be the last one for quite a wee while. I had to bank 4 episodes in total because next week I'm off to America and the NFA convention, and my girlfriend has made it very, very clear in no uncertain terms that I am not to be fucking podcasting on our holidays. So I've had to bank a lot of episodes. So far I've got 2 out of the 4. I'd even 6 days, but here we'll get there in the end, lads. So next week and the following week after that, you will have 2 amazing guests. I'll give you a wee clue. They're both former winners of the Kobe Flute competition, so you're very spoiled. I hope it's those 2. One of them's already recorded, edited, ready to rock. The other one should be happening on Tuesday. I mean, if it doesn't come out and there's a solo episode instead, it'd be too late to fix it, because I'll already be in America at that point. Fuck it. I'll be faded off Bud Light Limes and chili Doritos. I'll be in no fucking state to fix a podcast. The podcast will be on auto post at that point. Gareth will not be there anymore. The Inline G's running the show now. It's like a wee monkey up in my fucking brain with those cymbals, smacking them away, pulling the levers, making it all happen on auto post. But here, today's episode will be released on the 12th of July. Now, for some of you, that is an inconsequential date, similar to so many right beside it in the calendar. Just another day of the year. But to the prods amongst you, or anyone actually from the island of Ireland, you'll be familiar with its significance. So today is a day when back in the north of Ireland, or Northern Ireland, depending on your political viewpoint, the flute becomes a national symbol. You wouldn't be able to get through any street, town or city in the north of Ireland today without hearing a flute. I promise you that. And with all the natural political connotations that come with the 12th of July, don't worry, we will get to those. I thought today would be the perfect day to explore the flute as a political tool in general across the world. Pure for the day that's in it. So we'll be going through the flute as an iconic political symbol across the spectrum of Irish politics. Then we'll look at the flute as a political tool elsewhere in the world, including some very high-profile modern cases. Then we'll wind up with some opinions on music and artists' role, or musicians and artists' role in politics, and how we and you and I can all do something if you're so inclined. So we're going to start with the flute in Ireland. Now let me begin this whole podcast by saying, music is political. Music is, of course, political, and absolutely fuck anyone that says that music is not political. That is dog shit. Music, like all art or even sport, is political by its fucking very nature, by its existence. It is political. There's always these people who are like, oh, I wish musicians wouldn't get involved in politics. Like, either you're a total fucking idiot or it's willful ignorance. But it's impossible. Like Noel Gallagher recently. Yeah, I fucking love Noel Gallagher from Oasis. Was going on a rant about all the bands at Glastonbury this year. He's like, oh, there's too many of them making political messages. Just shut up and stick to the music. Like, no, fuck up. No, like, fuck. This is the same Noel Gallagher that is a proud Englishman, but for years played a guitar with a fucking Irish flag on it as an act of rebellion. And he says, they're doing too much fucking politics. Fuck up, Noel, you old wank. So yes, I'm sorry everyone, music is political. Now you don't have to identify or even engage with the politics within it, but that's your choice, that's your prerogative, but don't deny an artist's right to expression of political viewpoints. True political discourse is how we come to agreements in the modern world. We have to talk, people have a right to express this, especially artists. Now, the flute has varying degrees of politicism attached to it, normally coinciding with the genre of music we're talking about, and not specifically as an instrument. So the flute isn't inherently political. But there is a very different opinion in one specific part of the world where the flute is, as an instrument, by its very nature, a political symbol, across the left and right wings of politics, and across every political viewpoint you can imagine. And that place is, of course, the Green Emerald Isle of Ireland. Now, I did an episode way back, I think it was like episode number 8 or something, called The Flute Band Tradition of Northern Ireland. And we'll have a couple of the similar themes today, but today's key difference is the viewpoint is going to be purely focusing on the politics and the political impact that the flute has. While the last episode was sort of to give it context and space to breathe, and then we explored the music and the other sides of it. This is just politics, and it's not all about the Orange Order today. So, how can a humble wee flute be a weapon of politics on our fair island? Well, let's break it down quick. Ireland as it exists right now is 2 countries. two different legal countries. You have the Republic of Ireland, which is an independent state and a republic, a member of the EU, and you have Northern Ireland, which is currently ruled and owned by the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, then even the name the United Kingdom is, the full name is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, because Great Britain is the island, which has Scotland, Wales, and England in it, and the United Kingdom includes Northern Ireland. So we belong to the Brits, essentially. There is no border between the Republic of Ireland and the North of Ireland, or Northern Ireland. The only way you can tell that you've crossed over is because the speed limit signs when you're driving change from kilometres to miles when you go from Republic to Northern. That's it. Honestly, apart from that, you'd scarcely know you've crossed over. There's no real visual differences. You're going across. There's no border. Now, Ireland was divided into these two states in 1921. So from 1169 until 1921, Ireland was under British rule. Fully under British rule. Colonialism. So colonised actually by the Normans originally, way back in the day. Now, after World War I, Irish people were getting really fucking fed up of having to be conscripted and mandatorily fight for the British Army. So the British Army had conscription that included people in Ireland. Even though Irish people viewed themselves as a separate nation with its own ideals, its own culture, its own identity, and essentially Ireland viewed this as Britain's war, not Ireland's war. We didn't have to fight this war. This was not our war to fight. So there was a bloody war for Irish independence. A couple of people rose up in 1916, blah, blah, blah. It started to fight from there. And finally, in 1921, independence was granted, but Northern Ireland was formed. Why? So they had a bloody war for independence. It came in 1921. That's when Northern Ireland was formed, in 1921. Why? Well, for years, Britain had planted or deliberately paid for wealthy landowners, usually Protestants, always Protestants to be honest, families to move over to the northern part of Ireland and live there. So we actually call this the plantations. And it meant that when Irish independence inevitably came round, which Britain was preparing for, Britain could say, well, look here, in the north of Ireland, in those 6 counties, they're all Protestant. They all feel British. They all assume to be British. They all identify as British. They relate to British ideas and cultures. They should get to stay. Britain was very fucking clever. Did that deliberately. That is a common story. Like, Britain does that all the fucking time. Britain sending colonizing the country and slicing it up right through the fucking middle, drawing lines all over the fucking place. Look how many whatever the fuckistans there are knocking across the Middle East, where Britain has just went and tore it up the fucking middle. So Britain keeps the north of Ireland and calls it Northern Ireland, its own state. And by dividing it up, they did promise that if the north was ever majority pro-Irish unification, they would be allowed a referendum to decide their future. That day is coming very, very soon. So anyway, that's where this all starts. Ireland has always had people who feel Irish and those who feel British living inside it, with the Brits mainly being in the north part of Ireland. So there is straight away a cultural difference. And then obviously that goes into music, that bleeds over, and this is where our wee flute comes in. So the British identifying folk, also they're mainly Protestant. We do say the term Protestant to describe them. It's not a religious war in Ireland, never really was. Religion plays a role in it, but the official term, the more accurate term would be to call them Unionists. Now, Unionists obviously still use that term today, Unionist. They have a huge tradition of military-style fife and drum bands, similar to the ones people have in the US. You guys have like those Revolution fife and drum bands. It's very, very similar. It's very military-based. These came from British Army towns. So they were set up across Ireland where the British Army had a garrison to look after the Irish people. Or look after them? Well, I don't say that. And the soldiers were playing this kind of music, and the locals picked it up. So up until this point, Ireland didn't really have flutes in it either. Now, the height of Ulster Protestant Unionist celebrations is held on the 12th of July every single year. That is the big day. That's the Orange Fest. That's the day that the entire country on that side celebrates Unionist Protestant British culture. And why the 12th of July? Well, it's actually to commemorate a battle. It was King William of Orange. That's why we call it Orange Fest and the Orange Order and everything's orange. It's because King William of Orange, who was the British king at the time, came from Holland, whose country identifies as, or is always seen as being orange. The football team were orange. King William wears orange. I don't know anything else about it. Actually, I do know carrots are orange because of King William. That's why we have orange carrots. It's like a mutation. Carrots were originally purple, and then King Billy made them orange. Someone told me that in the pub last week. Fucking Niall told me that. Sligo Niall from the Paddy's Day episode. There is truth in that. I haven't researched it enough to tell you exactly what it is. But Go Google, carrots are orange because of King William. I can't remember how, but they are. They fucking are. Where were we? So yeah, they have their big day. Why is it orange? He's from Holland originally. I don't know why the Dutch wear orange. Not a fucking clue, to be totally honest. But anyway, he had a big battle over the Catholic king, King James. And they had this battle at the Boyne River, which is down near Drogheda direction, actually in Ireland. And that was where King William won the battle, beat the Catholics out of Ireland. Ireland became a Protestant state then. The Catholic rebellion was quashed, and that all happened in 1690 on the 12th of July. It actually happened on the 1st of July, but then we switched calendars from the other one to Gregorian. Lutheran. Is it the Lutheran calendar? Lunar calendar. No, whatever it is, it went to the Gregorian calendar. And the lost 12 days. So, because of that, we celebrate the whole thing on the 12th of July today. That's why I'm wearing my Rangers shirt as well. I'm not going to get into the history of football with this. I'm not going to tell you why Rangers are Protestant and Celtic are Catholic. But anyway, I got called out because I wore a fucking Celtic top the other week on the podcast. So I'm wearing a Rangers one. I've even put my Protestant on for you today, which is a rare fucking thing. And I mean Rangers in Glasgow, Rangers football team, not fucking the Rangers, whatever the fuck they are. It's the New York Rangers, not one of those fucking silly boy sports over in America. A real sport, soccer. Now, Northern Ireland currently has a few hundred fife and drum bands. We call them flute bands. And on the 12th, they all parade in their local towns and then further into the city. So normally in the morning, you go around your local village, your local area with your band, and then you join up for the city-based one, where all the bands in the city and the surrounding areas come together to go through the city. It's a great day. That's how I learned the flute. You can find out more about that on the flute band episode. Now, this is an extremely political day. Extremely. The organising committee of all this is called the Orange Order, again, because of King William being orange. It's a members' association. You can maybe compare it to the Freemasons. It's that kind of idea. Now, this is from their website, the Orange Order's website, which I was surprised they had. They're not the most modern of institutions. The Orange Institution is a membership organisation comprised of Protestants who are committed to the protection of the principles of the Protestant Reformation and the glorious Revolution of 1688, which enshrines civil and religious liberty for all. Our members celebrate these principles publicly through our annual colourful parades. So firstly, with the Orange Order, Catholics can't join. They're forbidden from joining. You must be a Protestant. Also, women can't join either. Women can't join either. Cut. So firstly, with the Orange Order, Catholics can't join. You have to be a Protestant. Fucking obviously. Secondly, women can't join because they're all witches and you never know what they're going to do to tempt those men. God forbid you see a bit of fucking shoulder when you're walking down the street and the men would be able to hold themselves back. That kind of heresy we haven't seen in Ireland. Cover our women up and put them in the kitchen. You're good Irish. This is a joke, by the way. That's fucking satire. And finally, you can only join the Orange Order if you actively defend British values. So for this reason, the 12th of July is traditionally politically hard right. Hard right. They're pro-Christian, anti-gay marriage, anti-abortion, anti-Catholic. Honestly, the Orange Order are anti-fucking everything. Anti-fucking. You're anti-everything. You're anti-fucking everything. I'm your anti-everything. Now, the symbol, the flute is the symbol. The flute is the symbol of the Orange Order, which is so strange. And this is particularly important because on the other side of the Irish political spectrum, they are also fond of a flute. This is why I also find it very strange when I moved to music college that in performing arts colleges in anywhere that's not Ireland, the flute is mainly played by girls these days. Not at a professional level. Well, not get into that. Fucking, that's a disgrace. But when people are studying flute to a high level, it's mainly women. In Northern Ireland, up until the fucking 90s, women couldn't play in flute bands. So the flute is very much so a man's instrument, which is so bizarre when you leave Ireland. But anyway, the Prods have their flute. They love it. They're politically hard right. The 12th of July will demonstrate that in no uncertain terms. But the other side, I mean, the pro-Irish people from Ireland, who are often also Catholic, who are referred to officially as nationalists. Similar to how there's Unionists pro-Britain, Nationalist pro-Irish. We also call them Republicans, but I don't like using the term Republican because it makes Americans think they're fucking Republicans. And they're very, very different people with very different ideas about the world. American Republicans have lost their fucking minds. Irish Republicans are socialist. They're not libertarian. No, they're left-wing anyway, not libertarian. But they're socialist and, yeah, they're very lefty. Not like the Republicans who have lost their fucking minds over there. Donald Trump's a Republican, isn't he? Is he really? I don't know. Not getting into that. Not touching that hot potato. So, if I start talking about American politics before I go, I could end up getting fucking pulled in by the American... What do you call those guys? The TSA. The TSA. They'll be asking me for the purpose of my visit, and I'll tell them to go fuck themselves. Now, anyway, back to this. So, we all know how Irish folk music goes. You all know a bit of Irish folk music, for fuck's sake. You know the style, you know the instruments. You know, I'm sure as soon as I say Irish folk music, you've all got an image in your head right now of like a wee pub somewhere in fucking Kerry or West Cork, with loads of pints of Guinness on the table, wooden seats, and, you know, a couple of old boys with the hats on, singing songs about heartbreak and whiskey. And to be honest, if that's your image, you're fucking bang on. That's exactly what it is. Now, Ireland has had traditional music for centuries. But interestingly, the flute only popped up in the mid-1800s. Not too far away from Theobald Boehm's time, even though we don't use the Boehm flute in traditional Irish music. So it popped up the same time it did for the Unionists, and kind of for the same reason. Local barracks, British Army barracks were set up, and it just got the locals familiarised with the instrument. It's just some locals decided to take the instrument, think that's a great instrument, happy fucking days. I'm not going to play their military marches, I'm going to play my songs about whiskey. And that was where the flute was introduced into Irish folk music. Nowadays, the flute is central to Irish music and Irish culture as well. The amount of times where I'm in Germany and people say, oh, where are you from? You have an accent. I'm like, oh, I'm Irish. I go, what do you do for a living? I go, I'm a musician. And they go, what instrument do you play? Guess, flute. Also, I'm ginger, which doesn't have the fucking stereotypes as well. Leprechauns play flutes, don't they? We don't have leprechauns in Ireland, by the way. Leprechauns are an American invention that were sold back to us, a bit like St. Patrick's Day. But anyway, so both sides have flutes. The Orange Order have the 12th highly politicised event. What do the Irish have? Well, they have a tradition of what we call Irish rebel music, which is a long-standing tradition across the island of Ireland. I love rebel music. The Americans might be aware of this, but I'm going to tell you the real rebel music. So rebel music it's a form of protest against the occupation by the British in the Irish island. So it features heavily in Irish life. Their songs essentially telling the Brits to fuck off, and not in uncertain terms either. I always find Catholic or Republican music is a little bit more poetic than the Protestant Unionist music, but we'll get to that. If you go to any Irish pub with a rebel band playing, we call them rebel bands, there will be a flute. There's always a flute. In fact, there's a bar in Belfast called the Rock Bar. I've been to twice. The Rock Bars are a rough bar now. It's down in West Belfast, which is the deep Republican part of Belfast, very pro-Irish down there, and the Rock Bar has rebel Sundays every Sunday, and they have a wee man who comes around with a hat collecting money for the band, but he doesn't say, can you give him some money to the band? It's always, can you give some money to the cause? And by the cause, he means the IRA. It's fucking class, man. Stick a few quid in to fight the Brits. Now, I know I'm wearing a fucking Rangers top and I'm saying this, red, white and blue here. Now, yeah, if you go to any Irish pub, you hear an Irish rebel band playing, they always have a flute. Always, always, always. So this is the only instrument that both sides share in Ireland. The Unionists traditionally use drums, lambeg drums, snare drums, military kind of style things. They also have like brass bands are quite popular in Northern Ireland as well. Accordion bands, even the occasional pipe band, bagpipes, not uilleann pipes. While on the Republican Irish side, they have guitars, fiddles, mandolins, borons, whistles, harps. Also a fiddle. Someone genuinely asked me this recently, and I kind of forgot that not people who aren't Irish don't know this, sorry. But a fiddle is not a different instrument. I'm sorry to break your hearts in this. People are like, oh no, I haven't got a fiddle, I've only got a violin. They're the same fucking thing, man. A fiddle is a violin when you've spilt beer on it. That's the only difference. Also, fun fact about harps, I found this out recently, which fucking so funny, man. I'm not drinking Guinness today. I've got a Beamish glass. Oh, how lovely is that glass? I love Beamish, man. Beamish is the superior stout. I love Guinness with all my fucking heart, but Beamish is a wee bit better. Anyway, Guinness have a harp on their logo. And also the Irish government have the harp as their logo. Ireland is the only country in the world that has a musical instrument as its national emblem. So it's on your passports, it's on all official documents, there's a harp in the corner. But Guinness was formed a very long time ago, and that old rat, Arthur Guinness, he signed the lease for the Guinness factory. He signed like a 9,000 year lease, which is why Guinness have this huge factory they pay fuck all money for, because they signed such a long lease on it. But he brought the harp in as the logo of Guinness, and he trademarked it way back in the day. So anytime you see a harp pointing to the right, that means it's Guinness. And you can only use harps going to the left unless it's for Guinness. Guinness have trademarked the logo of a harp going to the right, which is fucking great. Even the Irish government have to put their harps to the left because Guinness would sue them otherwise. Because Guinness is the real Irish government. We don't have the Illuminati in Ireland, we have Guinness. So often in the north of Ireland, if you're trying to find out if someone is Republican or Unionist, There is some subtle ways you can do so. Okay, the normal ways we do it back home, because these communities exist right beside each other in the north of Ireland. You have both sides, often on the same street. We have peace walls still in Belfast. Huge big walls that you can't throw things over. They're locked up at night. They still exist. There's actually more peace walls now than there was during the conflict that stopped in 1998. So the communities live right beside each other. And essentially, apart from that, they're identical. But there is ways to tell. So the first one is, what school did you go to? Because Catholics, anything starting with Saint, Catholic, Republican. We know straight away. St. Teresa's, Republican. Protestants don't go to Saint schools, obviously, or Unionist. What's your surname? Because if it's anything like Henry or Williams, Protestant, and if it's an Irish name, if it's O something, O'Connelly, O'Donnell, Catholic, Irish. You can ask someone where they keep their toaster. Classic solution to find out if someone is a Protestant or a Catholic. Protestants famously keep their toasters in the cupboard. My grandmother does that. She keeps her toaster in the cupboard. It fucking blows my mind. I don't do it. I don't have a toaster anymore to avoid, because I'm being apolitical now, so I don't have a toaster anymore to avoid this argument. But it is true. Back home, that is one of the cultural differences between Catholics and Protestants is Protestants, once they use their toaster, they take it out and put it in the cupboard and clean the worktop down so there's no crumbs on the table. Catholics keep it out. But then your cupboard obviously gets covered in fucking crumbs when you're a prod, but you can close the door of that and you don't have to pretend it exists. Protestants are very house proud. Prods are very house proud. They keep a clean house, Protestants now. Now, those are the ways you can find out. But weirdly, we're in a country where everything is political and the slightest thing can give away if you are Catholic or Protestant. One of those things is not, I play the flute. Both sides play the flute, which is one of the very, even sports, literally anything in Ireland, in the north of Ireland, you can probably infer what side someone's from. Sports, any other musical instrument, if they play the piano, they're probably a prod because they've probably got more money. That's the simple fact of it. Any of the instruments I mentioned earlier gives it away. Sports, Protestants play rugby, cricket. Football, to an extent, is kind of apolitical. Well, it's not apolitical, but the fact of playing football is kind of apolitical. Catholics play hurling and GAA. So everything is political, except the flute, which is kind of cool. But you would have to then dig deeper with someone and ask, well, what do you play on your flute? What tunes are you playing? Because what both sides have is their own set of music and different music. But what they don't know, I think they don't realize enough, is a lot of their songs, their famous songs, are exactly the same fucking melodies. And they're totally different ideas of what they're singing about. Totally different viewpoints on the world. So I'll give you a few examples of this. There is an Irish folk tune. Where is it called? Sean South of Gary Owen. Now, I'm going to play a wee bit for you. Now, see if any of the Protestants recognise this first. Beautiful, and the colours, they were fine. It was born at Derry O'Graham, and a skilling and the boyne. Fuck. So, for those not familiar with what I'm singing, that is the same tune, more or less, as this. They were fine. It was born at Derry. Now that is the sash my father wore, which is the Protestant fucking anthem. There is nothing more prod than the fucking sash. The sash is the song. That is the Protestant song. It's the first thing you learn to play on your flute is the sash. It is the fucking song. And there's an Irish folk song, an Irish rebel song that has the same not the same melody, but very similar. Very similar. This happens a lot. There's a loyalist tune called The Boyne Water. Now that sounds very fucking similar to this song. Who's over, sing this chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. That is the same tune as Come Out You Black and Tans, which is the fucking ultimate, the ultimate IRA rebel song. We will get to the Black and Tans later, but that is the fucking ultimate IRA rebel song. Okay, now these ones they're similar. I can understand you might go, Gareth, you're kind of fishing for those a wee bit. And I get that. But there is one more. There's one more big one now. There is a song which I could not believe this. I found this the other day. Now, there is a hymn or a Protestant flute band tune which is called Father's Advice. Now, I want you to listen to this straight away. Anyone from Ireland or anyone that's connected to Ireland, this is a Protestant hymn played by a flute band. I actually think this is it Shankill Boys? It's one of those ones. Very orange. I know what you're thinking, because yes, it is the identical tune to It's the Fields of Athenry. The exact same melody, note for fucking note. I could not believe that. There's actually a line in the Fields of Athenry that says, against the famine and against the crown, I rebel, they shoot me down. This is a staple of any, not even any Republican evening, any fucking Irish evening, every sporting event. When we do our sessions at the pub here, we always finish with Fields of Athenry. It is the Irish fucking song. People even shout IRA during it. I would never do such things, but people do. And I cannot believe, I don't think anyone knows, I especially don't think the Republicans know, that the Prods, I think, actually had it first with a tune called Father's Advice. I'm pretty sure they had it first. The tune definitely came from Father's Advice first. So, all incredibly political songs. Incredibly. And they're on the extreme of politics between left and right. But in the end, both sides love a flute. And they both love the same tunes. And if that isn't peace, then, dear Protestants and Catholics, I don't know what is. So, quickly, anyone who's out there today, if you're going to a band parade, if you're back from a band parade, have a fucking blast. I hate your politics, but I love the tunes. I love the 12th. I love the culture. I hate your fucking politics. Now, just to wrap this up a little bit, a couple of other notes I wanted to talk about. This is a very loosely organised podcast, guys. I'm very sorry for this. I've got great ideas. It's the thread pulling them together that is a little bit unstable at the minute, but we're going to get there. Now, right-wing music. You will have a hard time finding any hard right music, especially good hard right music. You'll notice most people who complain about music being political tend to be right-leaning, and that's actually quite simple. The fundamental values of being a musician and making art or making music are left-wing. You need creativity, and you have to value creativity. You often have to challenge norms, social norms. You have to push boundaries, which naturally makes you more progressive as a person. Economic insecurity, second reason. Most musicians have to struggle financially so much in pursuit of their art. That means things like affordable housing, affordable healthcare, unemployment benefits. All these things help a lot to creating great art. All progressive left-wing views. Empathy. It's an essential trait for a good artist anyway to have empathy. It means that you have to understand, sympathize, and empathize with the most marginalized people in our society. People like refugees, minorities, gay people, trans people, disabled people, the working class. These people you have to be able to empathize with them to be a true artist. And you can't just go to your own self-interest. And again, these are very left-wing ideas. So if you didn't have any of these traits, you could still be an artist and you could be a musician, but 99.99% of the time, you're shite. Right-wing art is shite. Like, without creativity, empathy, freedom of expression, you make proper boring shit music that AI could just shit out, no problems. Like, what right-wing music is there? What is there for right-wing music? There's country music, shite. The weird death metal bands from, like, fucking Scandinavia, the really hardcore ones, shite. Or you just get, like, totally fucking unimaginative and bland rock music. Christian rock, oh my god, shite. So, this is actually where classical music gets a little bit fucking weird. Now, before we get to that really quickly, I'm going to do an advertisement read. The Inline G podcast is free. and always will be free. That is a guarantee. However, if you want to donate to the podcast, you can now do so through the Patreon. On the screen now is the address. And for the audio listeners, it is patreon.com/the Inline G Flute podcast. It costs €5 a month, whatever that is in your country. And with that, you're keeping this podcast alive. You get 4 episodes a month here. Come rain nor fucking shine. We haven't missed a single episode. And the Patreon is the price of a pint. So if you listen to all the episodes and you think, fuck, I enjoyed them. If I saw Gareth in the pub, I'd buy him a pint. Do it that way. Brilliant. Thank you very much. I do everything around here on my own, from graphic design, research, scripts, audio development, video development, fucking everything. You name it, I do it. It's a lot of work. I love doing it. Now, becoming a patron helps generate a regular income for this podcast, meaning I can turn down other work to focus on, as well as not having to sacrifice the quality of my work and the morals of my work to suit advertisers. They can go fuck themselves. And it also lets me travel and meet the best flute players in the world. So, as a thank you, you'll get your episodes a little bit earlier. You get to ask questions directly to my guests when they're coming up. And you just know you're keeping this podcast alive, because you genuinely are. Without the patrons, this podcast would be gone. So thank you so much. You can unsubscribe at any time. So if you sign up to the Patreon, you go, fuck it, I can't afford this anymore, jump out. You won't even be billed for the next month. You're straight in and out. I jump in and out all the time of other podcast Patreons. So if you can afford to do so, please sign up over there. It means the world to me. It really, really helps this podcast. Thank you so much. If you can't afford it, times are hard. You might be out of work. Cost of living crisis on. That's grand. You can keep listening for free. Everyone will get the same podcast for free. It's a model based on soundness and kindness. Thank you. And also, one other thing I should plug quickly. If you're buying fucking anything from Flute Center in New York or flutecenter.com, use the code Inline G. The exact details of what you get are in the description. But anyway, why am I with Flute Center? We've been talking about this for a while. I'm only getting sponsors and affiliates on that I genuinely believe in, who I think are good companies. Flute Center are the fucking best. They are genuinely fucking brilliant. They're one of the few people that are willing to take a punt on me and bring me in as an artist. I'm not only the easiest person, I'm not the most palatable for the flute world. I understand that. Fair play to Flute Center for getting on. So if you use the code Inline-G, you get 5% off accessories, you get 10% off sheet music, you get free shipping on new instruments, and if you're trialing an instrument, I think you can try up to 3 at once, head joints and piccolos included, you get free shipping on your trials if you live in the USA for that one. Go and do it, because when you use the code, it goes back to me as well. I get a couple of quid out of it, you get a discount, and it makes me look better for Flute Center. It's win-win fucking win. So if you're going to Flute Center or if you're looking to buy new music, go and do it at flutecenter.com with the code Inline-G. I cannot wait till someone actually uses that code for the first time. It's going to be a big day. Right, anyway, let's get back to this quickly. Classical music and fucking politics. Right, this is the sad bit of the podcast. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like classical music is the only genre of music in the world that does its absolute fucking best to remain apolitical. And I actually have a theory why. Again, all the traits of great artists are left-wing. And most composers, especially the good ones, are left-wing or were left-wing. However, classical music as an institution is right-wing. Obviously, this is not a surprise. It is the epitome of the upper class, which I fucking hate. Like, how many other genres of music are there that you can be a musician in, not make a livable income, and still continue to be in that world well into your mid-30s or 40s? And be totally fine. I'm 31 now, and I know I sound fucking bitter when I say these things, but classical music is incredible as a genre, dire as an industry. Like, I have to work other jobs. I have to fight like fuck to make sure I can pay my bills. I'm one of the rare people in classical music that does that. But that's what normal people do. We have to make money. If our art doesn't make us money, we're fucked. In classical music, the bubble over there is insane. So many people I know, I went to college with people in conservatoire, and they can go right into their mid-30s, keep studying and studying and studying, never have an actual job, and somehow they can afford their fees, their rent, their food, their electricity bills, live in some of the most expensive cities in the world, buy multiple instruments, and not work a fucking hour. Maybe get the odd gig and all a bit of teaching, but like not have to actually make their money. I'm thinking, where the fuck does the money come from? But you need to be middle class to succeed at classical music. I really believe that. You need to have backing from your parents, or it really makes a difference. It is the key decider for me. Outside of, talent and hard work, but this is very close, is a good financial backing or coming from a wealthy family. That makes the total fucking difference. And sucking the soul out of the industry, to be totally honest. Now, there is some movement within classical music for political activism. I'm very glad to see it. And the latest wave of college students, people going into music college, 18, 19, 20, they're going into politics more, and it's great to see. They're the people that are going to change. My generation tried, we fucking failed 10 years ago. Now it's up to you guys to do it, and they're doing a great job. The two big areas I've seen a change in are rights for LGBTQ plus people and minority races, which is incredible. Now, these are of course great to see. We're all very happy, but my only issue is These two things are not political. They shouldn't be political. This is basic fucking human rights. It should not be a political statement to say, don't be racist, let black people into the fucking conservatoire. Or don't judge anyone by what gender they are. Let their fucking strength of character and their ability speak. It's not fucking political. But anyway, whatever. I hope we see a classical music world where the working class can have a fair crack at it. They can get a good go at classical music. But especially in the UK and Ireland, I have got no hope. None. I still strongly believe the status quo of classical music. It still exists. The fancy institutions, the tax exemptions, the private donors, the right-wing politicians who support it for fucking ages. It's essential to keeping classical music alive right now. It's essential to its survival. There are attempts at bringing in progressive politics, but they're immediately shut out and shouted out to keep that gravy train running. Which is a shame, because we're producing so many graduates who are not talented enough to enter the industry, quite honestly, but with zero other discernible skills. So because they have financial security from their parents, they study classical music their whole lives, and then when they go out, they can't do fuck all else, so they stay in the bubble. And they're the ones making the connections and going to the dinners and hanging around people because they got fuck all else to do. So they'll get the work eventually because they're hanging about still while the rest of us are fighting to survive. It's fundamentally against what makes classical music great. But sure. I'll leave you with this. I actually saw a comedian recently who said this and it really resonated with me. He said the main difference between a working class artist and a middle class artist is a working class artist only gets to fail once. Now, current politics. Why did I write that as a chapter? Fuck. Plenty of people are using the flute for activism. I do love that. I'm fucking into that. There are people like Nicole Mitchell and Roland Sutherland. Both incredible people doing so much work for diversity within the classical music world and well, the jazz world and other genres, but as flute players. And you've got Lizzo as well, playing the flute, shaking her ass, doing wonders for diversity and the LGBTQ plus community. We need to get a shorter acronym, guys. We need to get one. But also Keir Starmer. Fuck the amount of things I've seen about Keir Starmer because he played the flute. I am delighted that the Conservative government is out in the UK. Fuck the Tories. I am even more delighted that Reform UK have went back with their fucking tails between their legs. The absolute cunts. Nigel Farage is a snake. And fuck them. I was so happy they only got 5 fucking seats. And I am a Labour fan. I'm a huge Labour fan. I'm not a fan of Keir Starmer's Labour. It's Labour, it's Tory light. It's diet Conservative. He's too close to the centre for me. But it's better than nothing. But Keir Starmer's a perfect example of, he was a middle class posh boy. He went to Guildhall Junior School of Music until he was 18. He had loads of money. He did classical music right from the day go. So he does come from a wealthy background. But could be worse. Could be the Tories, so I'll let it happen. But please do not put Keir Starmer as the working class hero of politics. After what they did to Jeremy Corbyn, I will never forgive the Labour Party. So that's why I'm not sharing anything about Keir Starmer playing the fucking flute, man. Fuck Keir Starmer. But up the Labour and fuck the Tories. Now, I'm going to wind this episode up by going back home. Take it around the world, bring it back home to Ireland. To the home of politics, essentially. Because there is a huge wave of Irish musicians and Irish artists in general with a big political agenda right now, right at this moment in time. And that is Ireland's connection with Palestine. Now, there's bands like Lankum, the Merry Wallopers, Spinny na Heron, true Irish folk bands. And they're young. Now, these are all young bands. They look like rock stars. They dress like rock stars. But they play pure Irish trad music. I mean, proper Irish trad. They don't like water it down. There's no crossover. There's no electric guitars or anything. Shit. This is pure trad right down to its core. And they're fucking killing it. They're playing Glastonbury. They're playing big festivals. They're playing the kind of crowds, like young people crowds that would go to an indie band or would go to a rock band. It is so good to see this revival coming up. It's amazing. The sets they did at Glastonbury, some of them, fucking incredible. Singing Irish folk songs at one of the coolest and most significant music festivals on planet Earth and selling out tents to it. It's so good to see. And they're doing it all across the UK. The Merry Wallopers were here in fucking Cologne recently. Smashed it. So it's great to see Irish bands doing this. And they all feature 2 things. One, they have a flute. They all have a flute. Man, even Kneecap's new album has a flute on it. And 2, they're all huge advocates for the Palestinian people. Now, you'll notice that if you're paying attention to the media, every Irish artist, if you name an Irish artist in a minute, from actors to musicians, writers, painters, even fucking every Irish political group, both sides of the spectrum in the Republic of Ireland, everyone's pro-Palestine. Everyone. And it's something that I announced recently on my socials, that I was very pro-Palestine. I was going to show my support for the Palestinian people, and I felt like it was a big deal, which is fucking stupid. It's not a big deal. It's fucking common sense. It's America that makes me feel like it's not a big deal, because Americans have lost their fucking minds. But why is Ireland the only country, the only Western country, unanimously and unambiguously in support of Palestine? Because, simply, we see our own history through their eyes. Now, there's the obvious parallels of colonialism, occupation, starvation, and now genocide. But there's also deep historical links between Ireland and Palestine. So there was actually a fellow called Arthur Balfour. Wee history lesson here for you. Arthur Balfour. He was the man who created the Balfour Declaration. Now, the Balfour Declaration was a statement from the British government in 1917 calling for the establishment of a Jewish home in the middle of the Palestinian state. It was basically the first steps of Britain's first steps to creating mandatory Palestine, which is now known as Palestine, which then, following on, became Israel. So that was the first steps that Britain ever took in that government. And fun fact, Arthur Balfour, before he made that statement, was the Secretary of State for Ireland in the British government. So, for example, there was a time when Irish people, especially in the very south of Ireland, down near Cork, they started complaining because all their landlords were British, but they were absentee landlords. So they were raising the rent massively when Ireland had just come out of a famine as well. Raising the rent massively, and they were never fucking there. Never there. They just set up the houses, raised the rent, and fucked everyone over. And if you couldn't pay it, grand, you went out and died. So they set up a peaceful protest. And that's always been the tradition of Irish republicanism, is peaceful protest. So they set up a peaceful protest. Balfour changed the fucking law at that time to allow you to shoot peaceful protesters. So they went out, British Army went over to Cork and just fucking gunned them all down. People peacefully protesting that their rent was too high. That's fucking Arthur Balfour. And then came the Black and Tans from the song earlier. You might remember them. The Black and Tans really quickly were a covert British military black ops group. So they were created to quash rebellions against the British state in Ireland. So they went in undercover, not known to anyone, and not even on the books with the British government. They went in and destroyed rebellions. Now, when I say destroyed rebellions, they were not operating under the British government or the British law in any way. So they would go in and just kill people. Covertly. Kill them in their sleep, kill them in the pub. No attachment to the government whatsoever. And then that way, when it all went great, the British government got what they wanted, and if it went badly, they had no responsibility towards the Black and Tans whatsoever. Now, the Black and Tans was not their real name. It's what they were nicknamed because they had a uniform. Obviously not a real uniform, but they traditionally wore black shirt and tan trousers. So they became the Black and Tans. Now, anyway, after getting defeated in Ireland, where did Churchill send the Black and Tans? Palestine, to quash any Palestinian rebellions or protests against the establishment of the State of Israel. So the Black and Tans were sent off to fucking Palestine, man. The same exact people after they got fucked in Ireland. And they did get fucked in Ireland, by the way. There's a lot of stories about the Brits about saying, oh no, we let the Irish have their independence. Even the Troubles as well, it's the same thing. We all know the IRA fucked the Brits to a draw. IRA won that, and the Brits went back with their tails between their tails between their legs. That's the correct sentence. So they sent them off to Palestine. So we feel such a connection with the Palestinian people as Irish people. We are so attuned to their struggle, and we have such a strong relationship. Every political party, right wing or left wing in the Republic of Ireland, is pro-Palestine. The Taoiseach, who's the Irish Prime Minister, Simon Harris, came out recently and made a very clear speech saying, we support Palestine, pro-ceasefire, Israel has to stop its genocide. They will use the word genocide. The Irish government is not fucking afraid of Israel, nor should it be. The Israeli spokesperson for Ireland and the Israeli delegate removed themselves from Ireland and left some kind of threat going, they'll regret their decision to support the Palestinian people. I mean, go fuck yourself. Who do you think you are? So, anyway, Irish artists were all supporting Palestine so openly. Every band I've just mentioned, any Irish band you know, they'll be holding up a Palestine flag at every fucking gig. Not one exception to it. They will pull out of festivals. Kneecap have pulled out of so many festivals in America because the American military are sponsoring it, and they won't play it because the American military is sponsoring the war in the Middle East. Irish artists are not afraid to do this. So, even Nicola Coughlan in Bridgerton, the Irish girl in Bridgerton who was in Derry Girls as well, she's raised something like $2 million in the last couple of weeks for Palestinian aid. She's very pro-Palestine, which is great to see. Fair play to them. They're not fucking afraid of it, nor should we be. So, guys, why am I telling you all this? To be honest, I don't know. But music is political, okay? It is political, and you're allowed to be political too. As a musician, you have the right to. It's in our DNA as people. The reason you are an artist is because you are a political person and you care about things. You're creative, you have empathy. That's who we are as musicians. And if you're not, you're a bad musician. Sorry to tell you. And although the flute is widely used for political means, classical music isn't. So maybe it's about time we change that. So I hope hearing stories of other activist musicians and flute players makes you feel a little less crazy for considering a political statement in your next piece of work or on your socials or anywhere. Or maybe this episode is just me getting this all off my chest and not really knowing what to do with it. I don't know. Guys, I don't know. It was a fair bit of a ranty podcast this week, so I'm not really sure. I'm sorry, lads. But anyway, I hope it helps someone. I hope it's got some kind of relevance to someone. If it doesn't, fucking skip ahead the next week and you get a lovely episode. Now, lads, I always go a bit mad around the 12th. The 12th week always has me bringing up a lot of identity questions, so I always go a bit fucking insane. That could also explain this podcast episode. But anyway, I'm off to America in a few days. This is the last podcast you hear before I'm in America. You've got lovely fucking guest episodes coming up next week. Next week's episode with the guest that'll be announced is brilliant. Oh my God, it's the first time, I won't say that, but it's a very emotional episode. It's the first incredibly emotional episode that even I got during the podcast. So yeah, get excited for that. And while you're doing that, I'll be drunk somewhere eating a burger. So I hope you all enjoy this episode, the next episode, and I'll be back next week with a very special guest. So, sláinte lads, have a great weekend, happy 12th, free Palestine.